Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. I'm wearing my favorite of all my Giants shirts today. And with that, Nick, I have a question for you on the spot. Bold prediction.
Oh.
Who will lead the Giants in receiving yards after Malik Nabers this season?
Oh, I love this question. I'm probably still going to go with Darius Slayton. This was not discussed prior. Dan and I spent like 10 minutes just chopping it up before the podcast. And this is how Dan starts. I think I'm going to go with Darius Slayton because Russell Wilson will, if we're talking about yards, Russell Wilson will connect with Darius Slayton on a bunch of deep passes to inflate those numbers a bit. So I'm going to go with Slayton, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's Theo Johnson as a
I was going to say Theo Johnson, a possibility. Well, Theo Johnson has not been spotted at practice in the last few days and really not since the second preseason game, according to Dan Duggan. So we're all hoping nothing is serious on that front. We wanted to start with that. And Nick, I wanted to start with a tip I got from a friend of mine, Adam Azer, who hosts the Fantasy Football Today podcast. And he said, one thing I would advise to you is to start every single podcast with a question for your co-host. And I think it's a great way to get around these long intros that I sometimes fall into the problem of having. So that one was on the spot, not my best. I will improve as these days go on, and you will be getting better and better questions. But today we are here to talk about the post 53-man roster for the New York Giants, waiver claims they've made, and some players who have gone to other teams, greener pastures, if you will, for them. Maybe not, but maybe they'll get more opportunity than they were going to get here. Before we do that, Nick, how has your week been?
I'm doing well, man. Just trugging along, watching some tape on these new New York Giants. Giants added 2 players in their secondary, a safety and a cornerback. We'll go over that. Trying to really hone in on this 53-man roster before the season starts. Dan, next week, it's Thursday right now. We're recording. In a week, we get to watch football. We get to watch the Eagles and the Cowboys, 2 NFC East teams, as we battle the other NFC East team on, what is that, September 7th or whatever it is, on that Sunday.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of excitement going on right here in Nick Filato's office.
Early scouting, too, because we play the Cowboys the week after that. So we get to see the team that we face in week 2. Imagine if that is coming off a massive upset victory for the Giants over the Commanders.
I do hate how Dallas gets that like extra time to prepare.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that until now. Yeah, that's annoying. I don't want to give them any advantages, but maybe Micah Parsons won't be playing in that game or our game. Is that possible?
Do you believe? I think Ricky Leaks came out and said something about there being a trade on the table with the Packers in Dallas. There was nothing saying that it was going to happen, nothing imminent, but just there was a substantial package out there. Holy crap, would that not be awesome?
Yeah, Ricky the dog, he's been on fire this entire offseason, and generally speaking, overall, with the exception of a few misses on the draft, he's more of a non-draft guy. I feel like his draft stuff hasn't been as great. Ricky, shout out. We love everything you do. But when it comes to non-draft, his hit rate is wild. So check him out. One thing I wanted to bring up before we start today's show, Nick and I want to do a fun show next week. And what we want to do is leave it up to the listeners of Big Blue Banter Podcast. This is a show that will involve you guys and us. So in the comments today, and maybe on other videos, but starting today, and maybe circle back to this if you remember one later, you're thinking in the next few days and you want to drop it in, leave it in the comment to this video. What we want you to do is leave a comment of superlative. So next week, we're going to do a fun show with questions like this. So I'll give you an example of the type of superlative we're going to run next week. And then you can use that example to think of your own. And we'll take the best ones or the ones we thought were the funniest, the most fun, and we'll run those. So an example would be this. First player during the 2025 season on the New York Giants to make Dan crash out live on a reaction show. And with Daniel Jones gone, the world is yours. The world is my oyster. Anyone gets privy to a blow up. We'll see what happens. I have my early thoughts on who's going to make me blow up first, but those are the type of questions we want to answer. So fun stuff like that. Nick, I know you thought of one too that was funny, but so maybe do you have one that you can throw out as an example?
Yeah, sure. Who was the first player to make Nick 4.2 off of film tape? Yes.
Unbelievable.
Full 4.2
when all I get is 3.8. It's really disrespectful in so many ways, but in the same way respectful as a full Paisan. Again, 75% Jewish blood over here. Not great on that front, but we'll move forward and we'll leave the poor taste jokes for another time. And let's talk about Giants football here, Nick. So I started with this show off with Theo Johnson not spotted at practice. We don't want to speculate on that yet. We hope it's nothing. But the Giants made 2 waiver claims after the 53-man cuts. And the first player they brought in, I don't know the order of it, but one player they brought in that we'll start with is a player that you actually got a chance to watch a little bit of tape of. I have not. It's Beau Brade, a safety from the Ravens. I knew the Giants were going safety. They only had 3 they kept on their roster. No team goes into the season with just 3. Is Brady someone who could be our next sleeper waiver claim, someone who could play an actual role like Fabian Moreau's of the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, as Joe Shane said after he was claimed, it was something to the effect that this is safety depth and it's also special teams. This is somebody that Joe Shane and the Giants spent a lot of time with back in 2024 during the pre-draft process, ended up going undrafted, and then he earned a spot on the Ravens practice squad, saw some time during the regular season. I think he was dressed for 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. So Brade, I think, is how you pronounce the last name. It's Brade. If you watch his tape from preseason rookie year, there's a lot of little mistakes that can kind of frustrate you when it comes to his angles coming downhill, him not wrapping up, things like that irked me. Okay. It seemed like some of that was cleaned up in the preseason this year. He had a much better preseason this year, but he's not necessarily this single high type of center field safety with a ton of range. He's much more of a box presence. Okay. And there's a lot of tape of him operating in the box as a backside pursuit defender, sifting through trash. I would say exceptionally well, using his hands against wide receivers who are in line, trying to jam him and disregarding them and then making tackles. I did a whole piece. It's over at bigblueview.com, a whole film breaking down a bunch of his positive plays and his negative plays. I encourage people to go over there and check it out. I also tweeted his highlight reel from the last 2 preseasons and a little bit of regular season that he saw last year. So overall, I think he's a player we're going to see if he can grow into more of a role. I think he could possibly steal reps from Dane Belton in sub package. That can be entertained, but Dane Belton, I trust his ability to intercept the football and get in the way of throwing lanes to where I'm not sure that I'd want to really remove Dane Belton from the lineup, but I still think Brady can possibly entertain taking snaps away from him more so on those like 3rd and 3 type of plays, because if you need a more physical player in the box, and that's what I think Brady is. But please just wrap up, man. He tries throwing his shoulder into contact too frequently, not driving to the deck, not wrapping up, and it leads to missed tackles. So his missed tackle rate, I think, was like 17%. It was something pretty high back in college when he was at Maryland. So overall, I like this addition. I do. It's going to be more so for special teams, but it's an upgrade over the Makari Pages and the Raheem Lanes just on the back end. There was one play this preseason. It was the Indianapolis Colts. It was Daniel Jones, actually. It was against Daniel Jones, and it was a 2x2 set, reduced, split, condensed stack, wide receivers to the field side. And on the boundary side, there were 2 clear out routes, and the Ravens were in cover 6. So Brady was the middle 4th defender in cover 6. Okay. So cover 6, remember, that is quarter, half. Brady had the inside quarter. So what the Colts did was they tried to clear out both of the deep 4s and then run from the stack that was condensed on the other side of the field, a deep crossing route into the outside 4th clear out. And Brady processed this. There was a receiver running right at Brady. Brady just passed it off to the deep half defender, the cover 2 defender in the cover 6. And then that crossing route was going to undercut right into the deep 4th that was adjacent to Brady. But Brady saw this happening, and you could see Daniel Jones rear back to throw the cross. And then there's that consternation. He just stopped because he saw Brady act, and then he just shifted in the pocket, and then he threw it anyways, and it was easily knocked away by Brady. But that showed the eye discipline that I want to see from a defender in coverage, because again, I like Brady, and his tape would suggest that he's much more of a I'm in the box type of presence player. But the fact that he showed that along with other signs of development in this season's preseason, in 2025's preseason, it made me say, okay, this is an addition that is growing, and possibly the trajectory is heading upward. Let's try him out. And at the worst, he could be a special teams contributor.
I like that evaluation, and I appreciate you taking the time to break down his tape on a player like this that maybe is a developmental player for the Giants. I like that you said that he had flashes and moments in coverage. That was a great breakdown. I was surprised to hear how that ended with Daniel Jones making a pass attempt to the field side. Now I'm just kidding.
I could only. I love how you have to.
I'm joking.
Hey, guys, I'm joking.
Give me that.
You know, while we talk a little bit here, I can pull up some of his highlights actually, I'll do that in post. Post. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, you guys will be enjoying it. You guys would have already seen it at this point. Let's move on.
Yeah, we'll move on to Rico Payeyton, the cornerback who the Giants claimed from the Saints. Have not a chance to get into his tape at all. What about you, Nick? Have you had a chance to look at him?
No, not much. 6 foot, 185 pound, 25-year-old.
Okay.
Brady's a 23-year-old who's about 6 foot, 6'1", 200 pounds. But yeah, Rico Payeyton, more of a man coverage guy is what I've heard, but I really want to dive into the tape to see. It's surprising. Look,
is he boundary or do you think he'll play nickel?
More of a boundary guy
Okay.
from but again, I'm not, I have to watch that tape first. With Brady, it's understandable that he didn't make the Ravens. The Ravens are a loaded roster with a deep secondary, and they tried to sneak him onto the practice squad as a second-year undrafted guy who hardly saw the regular season last year. Didn't work because the Giants claimed him. But with Rico Payeyton, I was a little surprised to see that him not make the Saints because the Saints roster sucks. The Saints roster is not that great. But again, the Giants need this secondary help. I am eager to get into his tape, and I will today. And by the time you're listening to this, I would go to bigblueview.com and check to see if there's a film breakdown there of Rico Payeyton, because I'll be working at it after this podcast.
Oh, nice. So for those of you who are fans of the show, check out Big Blue View, where you can find all of Nick's writing analysis. Excellent stuff over there. Just have to sift through 1,000 ads. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just only kidding. Having a day out here. Took a shot at Jones, took a shot at the ads, but I'm only joking around. It's fun time of the year, and I'm excited because the Giants are heading toward the regular season. I don't think I've been this excited for a regular season since, I don't know, like 2023. I guess I was excited, but in the back of my head, I always kind of knew what our limitations were with that man at quarterback. So that man's gone. And I'm sorry for those who don't like when I say those things, but let's talk about other developments on the Giants.
So I want to start with, after we already talked for like 12 minutes, the players the Giants brought back to their practice squad. So we're looking at Little Jordan Humphrey, Trace Ford, D. Williams, Elijah Chapman, Dante Miller, Jake Kubis, Tumone Fox, Elijah Garcia, Brian Hudson, Jude McAtamney on the Giants International Exemption Program, Raheem Lane, Amir Smith-Marset, Jordan Riley, and I believe Dalen Cambry, Juice Wells, and Makari Page as well. I'm not sure about Stone Forsythe. I don't know if that was been confirmed, but I have to imagine, since the Giants, it didn't sound like there was a lot of offensive linemen on the practice squad. So that would be the guys the Giants brought back. Now, there are two names that are conspicuously not on that list, and that is one who was claimed, Tommy DeVito, by the New England Patriots, and then another, Greg Dulcich, who I would say wisely took his talents to the Dolphins practice squad. So he wasn't claimed to their 53-man roster, but he went to Miami. I think Dulcich, so we could start with Dulcich and then we'll get into Tommy DeVito. I think this is smart by Greg Dulcich, right? Because the Giants are deep at the tight end room, as we've said, right? And if you look at Mike McDaniel and his offense, it's wide open. It's meant for speedy type of tight ends. Jonnu Smith had a ton of success there last year. And Greg Dulcich fits that archetype. He is that type of tight end that I think would mesh very well with Mike McDaniel, and who is really in competition for snaps there with that specific role. It's a 32-year-old Darren Waller who just got activated and is coming out of retirement and hasn't played since he was a New York Giant. So I think that's wise for Dulcich and his career at this point. So I applaud him and I wish him nothing but the best. It does kind of suck that the Giants weren't able to retain him, but that's my 2 cents on Greg Dulcich going to Miami.
Yeah, I think you broke that down right. Just Waller ahead of him. Offensive scheme that fits him better, in my mind at least, even though he doesn't have the rapport. So well said there. And on the other note, DeVito, who signed with the Patriots or was claimed by the Patriots, congratulations to Tommy DeVito. And I'll put my hand up and say I was wrong. I didn't think he would be claimed. Of course, at the time, I did not know of the NFL's new rule that Monty, shout out to Monty from the He's a Giant podcast. So check that out as well if you want more draft stuff. He said there's a new rule that I just didn't know and I wasn't aware about, and every team is granted an emergency quarterback. To exercise this emergency third quarterback, they have to be on your 53-man roster. So DeVito has to be on the Patriots 53-man roster, but they don't have to be active on game day. And if they're not active on game day and they are your emergency quarterback, they can only play if both players had them get injured. I don't know if he was signed to be the emergency quarterback. He might have been signed to be somewhere, I haven't taken a look at the Patriots.
No, it's Joshua Dobbs is that backup, but he's the third. Like emergency. This does make sense because you have Josh McDaniel now back there. I think a player like Tommy DeVito can operate that system when he gets the football. Like we saw similar, like those Earhart Perkins type of concepts dating back to when Tommy DeVito was the quarterback for Brian Daboll in 2023. Those quick concepts, get the football out of your hands. Tommy DeVito reportedly is a very cerebral kid out there, knowing the playbook, knowing what to do right from pre to post snap. And then that first read, having that first read based on what he saw pre-snap. So I think he can adapt well to what Josh McDaniels offense is trying to do. But look at what he just did to the Patriots as well. And this isn't the reason why the Patriots are doing it, but he just balled out in front of all of New England.
Yeah.
And what did we see with the New England Patriots? Like they just played that Wooldridge guy that was the only quarterback they had.
You're right.
So it's Drake May, it's Joshua Dobbs, and then this Wooldridge guy.
They gotta get rid of Wooldridge.
Yeah, I think that's his name too. Like Tommy DeVito is an upgrade over a player like that. You bring him in, and you just got to give him the 53-man roster. But yeah, that's something
that's your emergency quarterback. Yeah, I like that.
And he's the emergency quarterback. And you have Drake, Josh Dobbs, and now a younger guy who can learn this system slowly, but he'll probably learn the system and then hopefully be ready if something, knock on whatever happens to Drake May. And he's had experience at the NFL level. So I don't think it's as big of a surprise as I originally thought, because of the Patriots specific situation. Labor Day weekend always sneaks up on me. It's the unofficial end of summer, and for me, that means grilling. I love one last big cookout before football and tailgating season take over. And right now, Omaha Steaks sent me a box to try, and I've been enjoying it. They hooked me up with a variety of steaks, their filet mignon burgers, gourmet jumbo franks, boneless pork chops, air-chilled boneless chicken, and even caramel apple tartlets that just melt in your mouth. Delectable, delicious, and divine. The quality is unreal. Every steak is perfectly aged. The burgers are juicy. The franks are legit deli style, and those tartlets, dangerous. And the best part is the convenience. I can pull something out of the freezer and know it's going to be great without making a run to the store. Right now, Omaha Steaks is running their Labor Day sale. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com. plus an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER. See site for details. And again, massive thanks to Omaha Steaks for sponsoring the podcast and also sending me that amazing box of meat. Thank you.
Speaking of DeVito, though, the Giants are already on to their next quarterback developmental play, and that's Taylor Elgarsma, the Canadian quarterback. I actually heard about Taylor like years ago when someone else was interested in him, just because he's a wild size speed freak type player. I think he ran a 4.5 with a 33-inch vert and almost a 10-inch broad jump at 6'5", 225, Nick. And from what I've heard, he can add to the frame, but arm talent is not supposed to be great with him. Just kind of a big athlete type player. I don't know too much more outside of that with Elgarsma. Maybe this is a player who they believe they can develop and play the next DeVito role in this offense. He played for the national team in the Super Bowl, and he was the first Canadian college quarterback to ever get an invite to the Senior Bowl.
Wow. Yeah, that's something right there. He was undrafted this year, went to the CFL and was picked in the second round. I don't really know anything about the CFL draft or how that exactly works. I don't see that he jumped 35 in the vert or 32 or whatever it was. I saw a 25-inch vertical jump.
Oh, bad numbers on my end.
Yeah, but he is 6'5", almost 230. So just like an absolute like statue back there when it comes to just his size. I don't know how athletic he is. I can't find that as of right now. But either way, this is because Tommy DeVito is no longer with the New York Giants. The Giants need that practice squad quarterback, somebody who can possibly be an emergency quarterback for them, even though Giants have 3 quarterbacks on their roster. So, yeah, that's what this is at this point. They just need to replace Tommy DeVito and have this practice squad guy.
And maybe they develop him. He's only 23 years old, right, Nick?
Yeah, I believe so. That's what it says. Yep, 23 from London, Ontario. Hey, buddy.
All right, let's get to what is in the SEO of this episode. For maybe people came for it. The Giants team captains, they were announced. Here's our reaction to them, Nick. So the Giants have named team captains for this year. And those team captains are, let's see if you can guess them, Nick.
Yeah, so I just retweeted it.
Oh no, so you can't guess them because you know the answer.
I can't guess them. That would be disingenuous. But I do find it interesting. It's only 5 captains again. Now, if you remember back, Dan, in 2023, the Giants had like 10 freaking captains. Do you remember that? Yeah, it was like there was like Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence were captains. Darren Waller, they gave a captainship to. Andrew Thomas, Saquon, Daniel Jones, Xavier McKinney, Graham Gano. I think Dory Jackson was. Sure, Okereke. It was just crazy. Last year, I think they only had 5. Okay. Now, again, they're rolling with 5. And I want to say I think this is the right 5. Now, I would like to see Malik possibly in there, but he's a second-year player. He did not get it. It's Russell Wilson. It's Dexter Lawrence. It's Bobby Okereke. It's Brian Burns. And it's Darius Slayton. Those are the 5. No special teams guys in there.
Wow,
which is interesting. But those are the 5 captains just announced by the New York Giants. Do you have any disagreements? Anybody you wish was also named captain? What are your thoughts on this?
So I'll say this. I think they went with some correct decision. You have to go Russell Wilson. He's been a leader this whole offseason, brought a veteran presence. And I think if your quarterback is not a captain of your team, I always think those teams are weird teams that generally don't have a lot of success in the NFL. So it would have been a bad sign. Burns has taken more of a leadership role. I think he's probably earned that. Dexter Lawrence goes without saying. And Okereke, green dot, defense, that's always going to be somebody who's in the mix for captain. All good with all of those. The one thing, like, I think Slayton earned it, and he's been with this team for so long, so I'm fine with it. But I would have liked to see, and not to say this will already happen, but I feel like all the the changes Malik Neighbors has made in his personality, at least from the interviews I've heard from this offseason, he's ready in my mind to be a team captain. I think the Giants will be a better team when he's in that captain role, and he's like kind of that veteran leader in the receiver room. Even if Slayton is still there, I think they're a better team if he's kind of leading the way at receiver. So maybe next year I'm expecting to see Neighbors in that mix.
The way I look at this is I think the Giants selected the 5 5 best leaders on the team. The 5 most respected players on the team. Because Slayton is the type of guy, man, where like after practice, you see him working with the young receivers and stuff like that. Like little things like that aren't privy to fans, just really to people who are at practice and stuff like that's important. And I think he's so well respected in that locker room. Burns goes without saying, guys flying around, taking out Wan'Dale Robinson 40 yards downfield because he's hustling in a training camp practice and like the first training camp padded practice, like Dexter Lawrence and then Russ, as you said, and then Okereke. So like, I think they just picked the 5 most respected leaders in their locker room. And that seems to be a different type of approach than they've used in previous seasons.
Interesting. I like it. And go with what the players respect is probably a good plan for that. Let the players be in charge of that type of thing. So I'm good with it, Nick. And I think hopefully this is a much better season for the Giants than we're expecting. And I'm really excited for it, man. And like I said, next week, a lot of content coming your way. We're going to be doing bowl predictions, stat projections, and the show that I referenced earlier. So just in case you missed it or you're late to this show, leave us in the comments some fun superlatives that we can guess and predict and have fun going over. Things like who's the first player to make Dan crash out and who's that film junkie, who will appease that film junkie Nick in his first session watching the Giants All 22 2025 tape, which I can't wait for, by the way, Nick. It's going to be so much better. I hope. I really do think it will be. Leave us that in the comments, write that into the comments, and we'll take the most funny ones or the best ones or the ones that are most entertaining to answer. But before we get out of here for today's show, Nick, I did want to ask you your thoughts on the Giants practice squad, the players who were named, and then who might be called up for that week 1 game against the Commanders.
God damn with the questions. Yeah, I like this. So there's probably going to be Corey Black will likely be put on the practice squad. I assume he's going to pass through waivers because he was eventually released, and so was Gunnar Olszewski. But that's all procedural type of stuff. I'm pretty sure Gunnar is going to get slapped right back onto the 53-man rosters. Let's presume that Corey Black is on the practice squad and Gunnar Olszewski is on the 53. The 2 players who, and again, a lot of this is contingent on health because players like Raheem Lane, they may not be fully healthy. It's kind of difficult to know exactly what's going on there. I want to say one of them is going to be a special. It seems like one of them is always a special teams player, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I want to get your opinion on this, actually. I'm going to toss this back to you on if the Giants, you think maybe they'll dressed like a Dante Turbo Miller because of Cam Scadaboo's inexperience in the NFL. Not that Cam Scadaboo won't still have a role, but I don't know if the Giants are going to be eager to put him out there for a large complement of snaps. And let's say something happened to Tyrone Tracy Jr. or Devin Singletary, then you're put into this position where it's just one or the other. And then Cam Scadaboo, who is healthy, but has not had a lot of experience in pads since the injury. So part of me wants to lean in that Dante Turbo Miller role, especially if he can handle special teams responsibilities as well. So what's your thought on that? And then I'm probably going to think through the Giants roster and come up with another name and specifically tailor it towards possibly a game plan with Washington.
And that was 100% the first one that came to mind, because we look at Cam Scadaboo as a player who we wanted to play a lot this preseason and in camp, because we're like, wow, some of those pass protection reps at Arizona State were really, really something special, but not the kind of special you want. The kind of special it's like, dude, you're just firing your shoulder into guys like willy-nilly and just way, way out of place. And I feel like that's something he's worked on, I'm sure, all offseason, because I know for a fact that NFL coaches, the Giants coaches, looked at his tape and were like, this is your first area. We need you to improve. But if we get to week one, Nick, like you said, will they trust him enough in those reps and in those situations? They won't need him for week one as it starts. Like you said, they have Tracy and Singletary, who they both can play on third passing downs. But if one gets hurt, that's when things get a little tricky. And I don't really know what the Giants' plan is at running back. Don't you kind of feel, generally speaking, going into the season, we would feel a lot more defined about how this rotation is going to play out than we actually are right now? Because I feel totally lost. Like, I don't know what the role is for Scadaboo and when the role is for Scadaboo.
Yeah, Scadaboo's he throws a monkey wrench into this. Like, to me, Tyrone Tracy Jr. is the 1A right now, and
that's for sure.
He's ensconced in that position as the 1A. And then with Cam Scadaboo, I think the Giants want to get him involved, but I don't know how much they trust him in pass. But like, there's a lot of little things like that I don't know how the Giants feel about this situation, nor do they want to put Cam Scadaboo in a situation where he could re-aggravate. I'm hoping that's not even a thing anymore. I'm not a doctor, though, but obviously they thought that once, and then he got hurt that same very practice. And you still have Devin Singletary, who Brian Dable and the Giants trust. It really just comes down to maybe there's something in the game plan for Dante Turbo Miller to come in as well, if we're just talking specifically about the Washington game. Overall, I look at Tyrone Tracy Jr., though, to circle back to your original question, and I say I think he's the 1A here. And then they have Singletary as a reliable guy, and then they could slowly integrate Cam Scadaboo back into the fold. That's and I think like by week 5, if Cam Scadaboo, when everybody's healthy, he's going to have more and more of a role. If, and again, it's a big if, you could trust him in pass protection, because he was like bad in pass, like very bad in pass protection back at Arizona State.
Yeah, it was a big problem for him there. It would be an even bigger problem at the NFL level, though we do foresee Nick and want him to be a bigger part of this offense than we're projecting right now, because we think he makes the offense better. And I think his tape at Arizona State makes it very clear, as long as he's not at one of those guys that just doesn't translate to the NFL, to the speed of the NFL game, which there's nothing for me to believe so far that he would be that guy. I think he would help them in the passing game and the running game as soon as week 1, if he's ready for week 1. But that's not the prediction I have right now, Nick. Based on, like I said, I thought we would have a much clearer projection of how this running back committee will play out for week 1. I don't feel like it's a clear projection, but if I was forced to make a projection, I think it's going to be like an 80% Tracy kind of day versus the Commanders, 80 to 85, with that 15 to 20 going to Singletary. Maybe a series for Scadaboo. Maybe. That's how I see it playing out right now.
So on to the next practice squad call up, if it is Dante Miller. I think it's important to note, last year in week 1, the Giants called up basically 2 special teamers. It was Carter Coughlin and Ty Summers. Week 2, we infamously at this point, because of the Graham Gano injury against Washington, did not call up Jude McAtamney. The Giants called up Timon Fox and Ty Summers. Special teams is a big priority for the Giants, at least last year. I'm wondering if the roster construction right now puts the Giants into this position to where they're going to still rely on special teams players, of course not kickers, but special teams players to get called up. And if that is the case, looking at some of these guys the Giants have, I might be leaning towards either Timon Fox or a Trace Ford, leaning towards Fox being that other player who gets called up.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, we saw it play out like that at times last year. So it'll be interesting to track that as we go through the season. but I'm very excited, man. Giants football is almost back, and it just feels different. It might not be different. The schedule is really hard, but it certainly feels different, man. And I had a discussion yesterday, which we'll get to maybe on next week's show, but just like a lot of my friends that are Giants fans, Nick, they just keep asking me, when are we going to see Jackson Dart this season? And I don't really have a good answer for it. So we'll think about that one more as we go through. I think a lot of fans are interested in that question.
It's going to be weird if Jackson Dart plays in like week 4 and it's like, Russell Wilson has that C on his chest.
So that happened with Daniel Jones and Eli Manning in 2019. I don't think a lot of people expected Jones to play as early as he did.
No, not at all. I mean, I remember Daniel Jones, what was it, week 1 against Dallas? They gave him like that last series. He was driving down the field and then he fumbled the football and we're like, no. And then he came in week 3 and just, I mean, it was a road game, but it was against a defense that was a little bit weaker in Tampa Bay, and credit to Daniel Jones. He torched them.
Yeah, I remember that defense was so aggressive against Jones, and he was actually good against that at the time, which is so interesting. I think, Shermer really did a great job with him that first game. He just had him so many defined reads and ways to just come off and look, and it was there a lot of times. There were a few big yak plays in that game too. Ingram had a huge yards after the catch reception for the Giants in that game. I think it was like 60 yards or something like that.
That throw to Darius Slayton would have been one of his best throws.
That was the best throw of his career. Literally the single best throw of his career. He was rolling to his opposite shoulder, had to flip his hips around and then drop the dime downfield. That was the only time we ever saw anything like that as far as downfield throw. I know people say, what about the Hodgins in the Minnesota game? I know that was like a 20-yarder outside the numbers outbreak. I think it was like actually 16 yards when I look back at it. There was nothing like that Slayton flick downfield for like 40. That was out of control. It hit him in stride too. That was wild. Yeah, I was so high on him after that game. Hopefully the same we don't need history to repeat itself for us, Nick. Like, if Dart starts hot, let's stay hot. Let's just be a good quarterback. We need something, man. We need a break on this team. We need a franchise break. Because if Dart hits, we're in such a good position to be a good team with the rest of the players that we've put on. Like, all the losing has got us Neighbors and Carter. Just to be frank and fair about the situation, we've been miserable for 2 straight years. But the good news is those years are over. They mean nothing now. But what they do mean is Neighbors and Carter are on the roster.
Exactly. Neighbors and Carter. And if you want to go back to the Dave Gettleman era, you still have Andrew Thomas. You still have Dexter Lawrence, and there's still some quality players left over from there. It's just now you need to, translate that talent to wins on the football field, which seems to be an issue for the New York Giants.
And hopefully we'll get those. So remember, thank you for listening. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Leave a comment. And if you leave a comment, have fun with it. Give us a superlative or something you want us to answer. Like I said, an example we're going to use is first player to make Dan crash out this season on a live show. So we'll do those. That'll be a fun show. Next week, we'll do bowl predictions. We'll do stat predictions. We've done that before. And we'll do one final show before the season starts. And we'll do a preview of the game too. And we'll do one final show because that'll be a fun one. I like doing that. That's actual football stuff. And then we'll do a preview or one final prediction. Record prediction show. Yeah. So that'll be how we close these things out next week before the first game. Wow, it's coming soon, man. Like, we'll get to this weekend, Nick. This is my last hurrah for the sport I love of golf. And we'll get to this weekend with my last hurrah. I'm going Saturday, Sunday, bang, bang, 2 big matches. Well, 1 big match, Neshannock and the Knoll. I can't wait to do it. And that's it for me. So then we're at football season where I want to be, watching the Giants on Sundays.
All righty, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it other than the golf.
What are you doing with your last free Sunday?
Probably I have a fantasy draft this Sunday.
That's big. That's what you're doing.
On Saturday. One of my big home leagues, but not the main one that I talk a lot about.
Big home league. John's in it?
John is in it, yes.
John's listening potentially today.
John is probably listening. And shout out to John, one of my best friends growing up. We joined the Marines together. This is my homie. This is my number 1 guy, right? He's in Dynasty League with all of Dan's friends. And you know what? Dan's friends, they jibe John sometimes for some of the moves John makes. But guess what? Yes. John won the Dynasty League. So shout out to John Adams.
Shout out to John not only for winning that Dynasty League, but for making the all-time greatest trade that looked like the single dumbest trade that anyone's ever made. They don't jive. There was one trade John made that people were just out of their minds lost for, and they just couldn't believe it at the time. And it turned out to be one of the most insanely good moves I've ever seen in Dynasty. It was years ago, the season after. So it was just 1 season into his career. Treylon Burks was a first-round pick for the Titans. John somehow knew this guy was an absolute bust, and I need to get him off my roster. But even more crazy than that, he traded the first-round pick 1 year into his career. People don't care about this. Just end the show if you don't like this stuff. Some people will enjoy this, so deal with it if you're still listening, and don't knock us because of it. Anyway, it was 1 year into his career. career. It's after his rookie season. He's still a former first-round pick. John scouts the Rams practice squad. It's like John scouts like the depths of the Rams roster and finds this guy, Kyren Williams, who now is a fantasy stalwart and has been so for multiple years. At the time, Kyren Williams was like a second to third stringer for the Rams that got a little bit of hype from Sean McVay, but everyone's like, whatever. He's from Notre Dame. Like, he's probably at best a passing down back. He's turned into this monster fantasy producer, like a top 12 RB for years. John traded straight up Burks for Kyren. It was laughed to the bank by everyone in my league. And who's laughing now? John, because he dumped Treylon Burks, one of the worst assets in fantasy, which at the time people didn't know, for Kyren, who was nothing at that time in Dynasty, probably ranked outside the top 250 overall. Now he's a top 30, 40, 50 Dynasty player. So just an unbelievable trade that probably played a big role in him winning the championship.
Oh, it absolutely played a massive role. And shout out to him, man, because that that one really worked out for John.
With all that said, he did then make a trade with me in your Dynasty League, giving up a first-round pick for Hollywood Brown. I think I won that one. So,
oh, wow. Yeah.
I'll definitely take the one for Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's oof. What is going on with Hollywood? We're going on a little fantasy thing, but like, I look at the Chiefs
I don't know, man.
depth chart, man. I look at the Chiefs depth chart. And there's so many receivers there.
You know what I'm so excited about the Chiefs depth chart?
Oh, are you gonna say Tyquan Thornton?
Oh, of course, bro. A draft call that I had to take an L on. There was a bust. I was like, how did this guy have that tape and suck so bad? The Chiefs get him, and it's like Tyquan Thornton makes the roster. Tyquan Thornton running with the first team, making plays with Patrick Mahomes out there. Maybe he's that deep threat knife in the defense.
Do they have any wide receivers who aren't just tall and fast? I know Hollywood's not tall, but at least like he's a speed demon.
Well, Rice is definitely not fast.
Well, yeah, but Rice is like a real, like he's like a real like fantasy receiver though.
Yeah. Oh,
speaking of Rice, though, this is to Rice. John took him like 5th or 6th overall in the Dynasty League. And a lot of people I remember in the group chat were like, "Oh, Rashee Rice."
Oh, in the rookie draft. Yeah, that was a great pick. I forgot he got laughed a little bit at that too. So John just has a way for understanding this. This is a big John show. Good for you, John.
He's smiling. He works in construction. He listens to our show sometimes when he's doing that. He's probably cheesing right now.
I love that. John was a great dude. Too bad I don't get to hang out with him anymore, but he went on to greener pastures. He had to get out of New Jersey. He wasn't a Jersey fan. As much as I have pride for New Jersey, some people just can't take this place, and I understand that too.
Yeah, I love that.
I do. What'd you say?
I love that comment.
I totally get it. I do get it. All right. It's time to go. We'll be back with you next week. Some fun shows. I'm very excited about basically all of those shows that we're doing. So keep it locked and loaded. Hit the like, subscribe, rate, do all those fun things, and we'll talk to you soon.